Hello, Chris Walker here with Big Angie Fan Channel. Pretty much over my COVID. Back to doing my vlogs walking on the beach, which I love to do. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about Angelina Jordan's older fan base and some of the misconceptions about it. Now, first one, which is kind of ridiculous, but I get this every once in a while, is somebody will comment to me or on some other reviewer of Angelina Jordan that it's creepy, this old guy who is, so obsessed with Angelina Jordan. And I think the problem with this is they're looking at this very superficially. They're thinking of a lot of these young pop stars who really lean into their kind of sexuality. I call them pop tarts. Angelina Jordan is not, she's not a Britney Spears dressed in a Catholic schoolgirl uniform saying, hit me one more time. And she's not a scantily clad, Ariana Grande talking about her boyfriend having her moving from side to side, which is actually a very raunchy lyric if you know what she's referring to. Angelina Jordan, most of us came to know her either as a very young girl or as a very young teen. And even though now she's like a beautiful 16-year-old girl, she has yet to, do any of that kind of pop tart kind of stuff. She's beautiful, but she has a very elegant beauty, and most of us look at her as, our attitude is kind of like proud dads or proud grandpas. It's kind of the opposite of the kind of appeal that some of these young Pop-Tarts are going for. So that's one thing I think I needed to get out of the way. There's, it's appreciation of her artistic brilliance is why we like her. It has nothing to do with her being a young female.
I don't care if you don't want me. I'm yours right now.
Okay, but the other more important misconception I think a lot of people have is that Angelina Jordan's older fan base, the fan base definitely is older. It'd be about my age, a little bit younger. Maybe the average age is somewhere in their 50s, maybe 60. That the reason for that older fan base is because she sings these old jazz songs, and we are just these, jazz aficionados, nostalgic for that kind of music. And that's definitely not the case. I mean, yes, there is a small contingent of her fan base who are really into the jazz, always like jazz music, especially among the oldest of her fans. But for most of us, we're not that old. We still grew up at a time when jazz was no longer really part of the pop music scene. Most of us were born somewhere in late 50s to 1970. In my case, I kind of grew up in a household where we had eclectic musical tastes. We had the old vinyl records that you could put 6 records in a stack on a record player, and so we would often have 2 classical records, and then 1 record by the Beatles, 1 record by Bob Dylan, maybe Aretha Franklin, and then an instrumental jazz. So I was exposed to quite a bit of jazz, but it was almost all, instrumental, like Miles Davis or Dave Brubeck, people like that. And that's my background. And later on, I kind of didn't like most of the music of the 80s, but then I started to like music more again in the 90s with grunge, getting back to a more organic sound. But if you look at if you look at most of the older fans of Angelina Jordan, they really weren't into jazz. they were into a wide variety of different types of music. You know, Rusty Shackelford, one of her, longest standing fans and one of her biggest ambassadors, he went through a period where he was listening to a lot of rap. You know, he really likes Eminem. You know, there's others who are really kind of into like the 80s rock. Queen is mentioned a lot as a group that Angelina Jordan fans used to like. So the point is, it isn't because of jazz music that most of us like her. So then why do most older fans like her? I think most older fans like her primarily because I think most music historians would agree that kind of the 60s and at least the early 70s was one of the golden ages of music when we were hearing some of the best music. So we were kind of raised on some of the best that pop music had to offer, and we heard all of these great singers. And after this lifetime of hearing all of these different genres and hearing some of the greats, then we came across Angelina Jordan, and she was surpassing all of them. For me, not only wasn't jazz, at least vocal jazz, something that I was really familiar with, but most of the songs that she sings are in genres that I hadn't really appreciated and listened to much. But yet, if I would tell you, like among my top 20 favorite songs of Angelina Jordan, there's a song by James Brown. There's a Torch song by Adele. There's an old jazz song. There's a country song by Patsy Cline. There's Bohemian Rhapsody, a kind of operatic rock song. So there's all of these songs that are from these different genres that I really wasn't into, and yet, I think these are all great songs by her. So it's kind of, she transcends genre. And you hear this a lot when people talking about her. It's just that, they can't really put it into words, but she just hits them. Often people will say, oh, I thought I hated this type of music until I heard her sing this song. Or, oh, I know that song. I didn't like that song until I heard her version of it.
Now that I see the love is a game for fools to play, and I ain't fooling. What a cruel thing to self-inflict their pain. Love is a game for fools to play. Oh,
people kind of try to look at this as a negative, that this older fan base is because, people are nostalgic for a certain type of music, so she's like a niche performer, just these certain kinds of music, and that's why she would never become a big star. But I think it's just the opposite. This older fan base is a testament to just how great she is, because these are all people who have listened to a wide variety of music and have landed on this young girl because she's just so good and she transcends genre. Now, she does need to get younger fans if she's going to be a big star. And so the question is, why doesn't she have more younger fans? I mean, you could argue that, well, these younger fans, they haven't had these great people that they've listened to from the past, and so it should be easier for her to be a favorite of theirs, because they're not like comparing her with these big giants of music.
what a difference a day makes. There's a rainbow before me. Skies above can't be stormy. Since that moment of bliss, that thrilling kiss, it's heaven when you find romance on your menu.
So, yes, that is an interesting question. Why doesn't she have more young fans, and can she get them? So what is the answer to that? Well, stay tuned to part 2 of this vlog. It's been Chris Walker in beautiful Hawaii. Aloha.